Good morning, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Doing Justice Brings Joy. We have Thomas and William are going to be joining me today. We're going to have interesting discussion about the early vote, some current events, and I'm going to give you some stats and facts related to the shutdown and why it's important for the Democrats in Congress to hold on because the pain will not cease if they quit. It'll only get worse. Yes, the federal employees, if they still have jobs, um, will go back to work. But the folks who are feeling the pain around SNAP benefits, the folks who are feeling the pain about Medicaid, and the folks who are feeling the pain around the ACA or Obamacare are also going to feel much more pain than what they're feeling right now. So please um, pay attention. I'm going to talk to you about the impact in North Carolina. Um, and I am in the middle of trying to do some technical things, and I'm going to ask William at this point if he doesn't mind um, taking over.
For
Just to talk about what's on your mind.
uh the other particular, you asked to speak about and I want to make sure I get her name right. Sonia Macy verdict and the case that happened there. Um, so brief recap. Sonia Macy was a black woman who, in the evening, had two police officers enter her home while she was in the middle of preparing dinner or cooking or something. She had water boiling in a pot on the stove when they came into her home. So as they were beginning to talk to her, she went to turn the boiling water down or off, but the police officer proceeded to draw his weapon and fatally shoot her. Officer was then charged with murder, and the verdict came in. Was it this past week or 2 weeks ago?
It came in just this week.
This week. And I believe while he was originally charged with first degree murder and a slew of other charges, uh, sometime during the trial, the jury was given the choice to charge with second degree murder and was then told not to deliberate on the lower charges. And so the verdict has come out as guilty for the officer of second degree murder, which brings a sentence of 4 to 20 years. Um,
Yeah, this is a real tragedy. She called the police because she thought there was someone trying to invade her home. Um, she was a young woman who suffered from some mental challenges and was in a period of, I guess, paranoia. Um, she was a good person. She called the police asking them to come and help her to check her home to make sure she was safe. And while she was in her home, she was in the process of
Cooking or something.
cooking dinner. She had a pot of boiling water on the stove. Now, I don't know if you've seen the video, but I saw it right when it was happening, and when the case first developed, and the body cam shows that the police asked her to turn off the water on the stove and to put it in the sink, and she was following their directions. She inquired about, why do I need to do this? And one of the officers said, because we don't want you to throw the water on us. And she made the statement, and it was not it was like, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. And she walked over. Okay. It was clearly not in a threatening tone. It was it was like, really? As she walked to the stove, from the stove, which was right by the sink. And she began to, empty the pot as instructed. And then he pulls one of the officers, there were two. One of the officers pulls his gun and says, put the pot down. And she's like, whoa, I'm sorry, what? And she's trying to follow his direction when he shoots her, or points the gun and shoots, and she pulls the pot up like she's trying to protect herself from being shot. And he kills her just like that. I mean, I'm describing to you word for word what happened.
Yeah.
We have the film footage of both body cams. This is why it's critically important, not just for the officers to have body cams, but to have them on. And there's a growing trend around the country that only the prosecutor and the investigators can look at the body cam, that the body cam footage is not publicly available to the press or to the family. And we have that law in North Carolina. And while it doesn't defeat the purpose of the body cams, if you have a prosecutor who is inclined to cover up than protect, and that happens so much in this country. It is a self-defeating purpose.
Yes.
If the public doesn't have access, it's really self-defeating. And
the trend over the past couple decades has been to decrease the public's access to this type of information and to information about our government, our services, and about law enforcement. Like, that's just been the trend. To the point where I know his name. It's the football player who took a knee.
Colin Kaepernick.
Colin Kaepernick has founded an organization doing second autopsies, because many times the coroner who is affiliated with the police will pronounce a cause of death before a full report is done. And referring to the topic I spoke about last week, that's one of the issues regarding some of those alleged suicides in Mississippi and Alabama is that the initial coroner's report was released too quickly, and what the police originally told the family was not what was reflected in the coroner's report. And it felt like information was being concealed to protect the university. What the sad thing is, I was trying to. This reminds me of the case.
So the second autopsy did show that there was some difference in the findings.
The second autopsy has not been released publicly yet, so I cannot assert what is in it because it has not been released to the public. The statements made by the family's attorney, and by the organization is that a second autopsy has been done, and it shows different information than what is in the coroner's autopsy, the official autopsy. I will not assert what they allege until it's public, but there is a discrepancy apparently between the two autopsies. So allegedly. What I can say is this case and reminded me, and unfortunately I tried to look it up, but so many similar incidents have happened just in the last year that's impossible to find now, of the neighbor who saw the black man who saw his neighbor's back door open and was worried someone, and didn't realize they were home, and has worried someone had broken into their house, and so called the police to report that there might be someone in my neighbor's house. His neighbor was sleeping along with their daughter. Police end up shooting into the house, killing them both without seeing anyone or identifying anyone. They shot into the house and ended up killing both mother and daughter. And I'm reminded of that because there are so many instances where Black people call the police for help,
right,
end up killed by the police. They're having a personal crisis, or there's a situation going on, and they reach out for help from law enforcement, end up killed by the very law enforcement they reach out to. And what stuck with me about the earlier case is the neighbor's response. And because it like broke my heart, but it like spoke to kind of what the relationship between the Black community and law enforcement is. And his response was, "I should have known better." Right. And you could tell in the news report, he felt like he had killed them because he should have known better than to call the police to try to get help for Black people. That was his takeaway from what happened.
You know, the distrust of our community, the lack of respect and distrust between law enforcement and the Black community, and the resulting tragedies and deaths are one reason, not the entire reason, but one reason that Durham has established the HEART program. And
yes,
it rose out of a similar, well, not a similar, it grows out of Black people with mental illness and their interactions with police.
Law. Yeah.
And so, but it has been effective. It has truly been, I believe, a life saving, and it has definitely been a life-changing program for the people of Durham, because the
Yeah.
heart teams go out into the community without a law enforcement presence, and they have mental health crisis person. If it's involving drugs, they have a peer counselor, someone who's experienced the same types of
Mhm.
crises to help get the impacted person calmed down.
Mhm.
It and they stay with that person over time. It's not just they come, calm you down, get you into an appropriate setting, and then do it and forget it. They stay in contact and stay available for between 30 and 60 days afterwards to make sure that they have stabilized the situation. And the heart program, I think, I don't know what it's called in other communities, but I see Charlotte. I know Charlotte and Raleigh have adopted similar programs. Um,
Mhm.
and Durham has gone from pilot to, I think, 24-hour. In the last cycle,
Yeah.
it went to
Mhm.
24-hour coverage and citywide coverage, because I think it was mostly in high impact districts, but it's cut down on so much, and it's helped buffer the community and the police, so that the police are only engaged in um, life threatening situations and don't become the life threatening situations in communities. But there are too many stories across the country where um, families have called because a family member is going through a mental health crisis, and it ends up resulting in unwarranted deaths when they were seeking help. And
Yeah.
so, again, we highlight this um, only to highlight that there are community solutions available. And in this case, um, the thing we're watching for now is does he get the low end for, if he had been convicted of first degree murder, that would have been life
Life
sentence
would have been
without
final option.
parole. So now,
Mhm.
is he going to get a 4-year sentence when adjusted for time served? you know, or is he going to get the max sentence? Um,
Because and most likely he will still only do half. And one of the things people don't, one of the things the media doesn't cover, but that the community is well aware of, is often after the sentencing, people fight to have the sentencing reduced,
mhm, mhm.
right? So, how much time will he be given, and how much of that will he actually serve?
Mm-hmm.
Again, there's already a problem with it being dropped from first degree murder,
Right, right.
where you tell someone to do something and them doing what you told them to do establishes your cause to shoot them fatally. In this case, his own partner testified for the prosecution because he felt like he had to do the right thing. And
Mm-hmm.
he felt that it was his partner who was the danger in that situation. He didn't feel his life was threatened. He felt like his partner was creating a life threatening situation. But the jury, which was one black man, 9 white women, 2 white men, believed the officer when he said, when she went for the pot, I feared for my life. Because boiling water is
as long as a black body is in and of itself fearful to white people, this will always be the case.
Mm-hmm.
Just existing as a black person is something that white folks fear. That's ridiculous. He had the gun. He had a taser. Okay, and he told her to take the pot off the stove. This was so shocking to the conscience, okay, that law enforcement officers across the country, when they saw it, was like, there was no effort to de-escalate. In fact, he was escalating and prodding at every point. There was no effort to de-escalate. There was nothing she did that was provocative. She didn't point the pot at him when she said, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. She was rebuking his assertion that she would throw a pot of water on him.
Yep.
Anybody who's seen the video knows that's what the conversation was. Anybody who has seen, and that's just from the little snippets that they show you on the news. But anybody who has seen the entire body cam from the moment that they knocked on her door, you could see him provoking her at every turn. And when the other officer stepped in to try to de-escalate, it would get brushed aside. And she would calm down. And she wasn't even upset with them. She was fearful about an intruder, potential intruder. She had nothing but love for the officers. So I'm gonna put on your beat to keep up with what happens. I mean, my Lord, William, you are tracking a whole lot of cases involving fear for my life, adventures of Black people in America. But I do want you to keep up with the Sonia Massey case and the sentencing. And the other aspect of this was he wasn't fit to be a police officer. He had some DUIs. He had a lot of red flags where he shouldn't have even been able to enter law enforcement.
That, unfortunately, that is a wide spanning problem across the country and many jurisdictions. For the Black community specifically, I feel like criminal justice is one of the three main issues we have, and I think that we need to prioritize. Just based on the research I'm doing, there's only three real issues. Everything else falls under one of those three issues, and criminal justice and crime and criminal justice is one of them.
What are the other two?
Taxes and more basically the distribution of tax burden, but essentially taxes. And the other one is White supremacy.
Mm-hmm.
I think those three are the only real issues. Everything else falls underneath one of those umbrellas.
That's
And
William. Mm-hmm.
until we based on the research I've done, the reading I've done, the articles I've read, right?
Mm-hmm.
The over 200 articles I've read, the dozen or so books and that I've read that you've seen, right? Those are the three issues. And until we as a community prioritize those three specific issues, we won't see the progress we need, and the country will continue on the trajectory it's on. And that's just the unfortunate truth.
And what trajectory do you see our nation headed towards?
There's a phrase that was said by like a tech or Fortune 500 CEO that kind of exemplifies the mentality of where we're headed. And it was, you will own nothing and be happy.
Huh.
And that is how the country is moving. Is they're trying to make it so that the American people, and this is happening across the world, but I'll speak to America, that the American people don't actually own anything, and that they're just complacent and happy about it, right? And it's like,
Greed is good, and you won't own
right?
anything, but you'll be happy.
Yeah, you'll own nothing and be happy. And it's like, but it's unsustainable because again, people can't survive. They're
Right.
making like people won't be able to survive. But it's one of those things where things will change in 3 years or 30 years. One or the other. Right? It'll either be people will be complicit, complacent, and won't actually get off their butts and do something about it. And it'll be a 30-year collapse of America. Or eventually people will get fed up and get organized to do something about it. And 3 years, the country will be shut down and protests will actually shut down the country and force change. And it's one of those things. It's going to be 3 years or 30 years. It just depends on.
That's a good segue into one way the public that we can create the change, and that's through voting. And Thomas, I don't know. I see that you're on, and if you are ready to present, give us some trends about whether we're complacent or complicit in terms of our early voting turnout process.
All right, we'll do.
So if you'll pull up your screens and, show us what's going on. Where are we going to start?
Let me see. Where are we going to start? Okay. Uh, we'll start here. And so, if you look here, you can see at your top left, have the registered voters, for each of the uh, cities, from the largest on down. And I have on the top right the early voters, from those cities who are having elections. Once again, you won't you will see some that are not listed, such as, say, Raleigh or Winston-Salem, because they are not having their municipal elections this year. I believe that they have moved to have them an even number year, so theirs will be next year in those two cities. And so if you go at the bottom, you can check for each county, either the registered voters, and for each county you can see all of the cities in each county and those who voted early in each county. Right now I have Mecklenburg County listed because that is the county which contains Charlotte, which is the largest city. And so I know we've been looking at that. And if you recall, Charlotte had an early set of primaries. And so I believe their elections were partisan. And so their final elections here will also be partisan. And so I think that distinguishing Charlotte from most of the other places that are having these municipal elections. And so you can see on the bottom right those who voted early, in each of the municipalities in Mecklenburg County that are having elections. And so if there are any other counties you want to look at before I move on.
No, but I do want to point out that Charlotte, it looks like they have around what it's looking like a little less than 5% have voted in the election. And isn't that lower than it was for the primary at this stage?
Well, I'm not sure if it was lower, but I think that one thing about the primary is that because they were partisan, a lot of voters either could not or did not participate in that one. And so I think for the final election, you now have all of the voters can. So, for instance, any Republican voters would not have been able to vote in most of the races in the first primary. And so I think I'll show that. I'll go ahead and show, if you see in Charlotte, the registered voters they're about, say, 40% Democrat, 40% unaffiliated, roughly. And so that leaves the, rest. And so if you, of course, you can, look at, other things. So I think that could be, some of the explanation for, where was I? Was here. Okay. So I think I will show Wake County, because I believe that, one of the races that you wanted to see was Marsville, and we haven't, spoken about that yet because they didn't have a, primaries. It went straight to the elections. And so if
Mm-hmm.
you look at, say, in Wake County, you'll see that Morris, while Raleigh is not holding elections, most of the other uh, places are. And Morrisville has about 1,000 people have voted early. And that's a little
That's a
bit more
good
than
percentage.
uh,
That's a good percentage of the early vote. That's not bad.
yeah, a bit more. And so I think one thing about Morrisville and Wake County in general is I think their early vote sites outside of Raleigh, I think, opened a bit late. And so I'll show you that, in a little bit. So is there
Which
anything
may
else you
have
want to see?
impacted early vote participation.
Yeah. Is there
William,
anything else you want to see?
Was there a particular set of races in Morrisville that we were interested in?
That would be the Morrisville City Council races.
Yeah, that's what we're looking at.
So let's see.
Okay. All right. Here's what
So there's
And so these are the
Yeah, these are the registered voters in Morrisville, and
okay.
I will see. And so, if you look, most of them are unaffiliated. There's a majority with, yes, of the remainder, about say, over 30% Democratic, less than 15% Republican, but still. But one thing about Morrisville that I think we should mention is that it has a very significant Asian population at the top here.
Yes.
I think in most places you will see most people will be either black, or white, bottom, or W. But Morrisville has a significant Asian population, and if you look at, you can look at it for each district. This is.
oh wow. So District 2 is heavily Asian.
Mm-hmm.
Now what is the green? Oh, that's multi. Okay.
Oh wait, yes. Yes,
Yeah.
the green is multi-racial. And so, oh, yeah, I think I have. I think I have to check. Okay. Oh,
So go
okay,
to Ward
let's see.
2.
Four. Okay. Two. Oh yeah, I think I have to click two of them because there is a small part of Morrisville in Durham County. So I think that's what I was checking. So yes, here is two.
And I believe Ward 2, William, is where we have two people of Indian descent that are running.
Uh, I believe so. Uh, Again, I will have to give me a moment.
Okay. I don't have the list of contests pulled up, but if you need, I can get a list and pull that up. And so, if you want to see, some of the
No, well,
contests that we're looking at.
yeah, this
So,
is the contest I'm interested in, and what we'll do
so with
is next Friday.
Morrisville, uh, so with
Go ahead,
Morrisville,
William.
there's a town council,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if it's like a ward system, so to speak, because it's like a
Mm-hmm.
6-person town council. There's the mayor, and okay, so District 2 is, yeah, uh Ashit Patel and Joshi Abaharajan. I hope I pronounced those correctly. And those are the two representatives of the Indian community. And the interesting thing about Morrisville is that they have a very large Asian Indian population that I can't say for certain is unaffiliated, but essentially votes independently of, say, the Democratic and Republican parties of Morrisville,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
so they are essentially an independent voting bloc, a very strong voting bloc in Morrisville. And so they can kind of determine the way the wind blows, more or
Mm-hmm.
less. And so the Ward 2 race is sort of kind of a battleground between two candidates who kind of operate on opposite sides of the spectrum politically in Morrisville.
Okay.
The other race I was familiar with was, give me a moment. The at-large race.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so again, they're Ward 2 and Ward or District 2 and District 4 have their actual town council members up for election. Then there is an at-large seat
Mm-hmm.
with 4 candidates, and revealing political bias here, disclosing political bias here. I was made aware of kind of what was going on in the elections in Morrisville by one of the candidates, Harrison Kessling, right? Just happened to meet him in certain circles and discussed Morrisville's uh, high, high population density and how
Mm-hmm.
that is affecting traffic and some of the solutions he was hoping to get to solve kind of some of the traffic and population density problems, because Morrisville is one of, if not the most population dense counties in the state.
Towns.
Towns, yeah, most
Mm-hmm.
population dense towns in the state, right? They
Mm-hmm.
are at like maximum capacity when it comes to housing, and they still have people who want to move into Morrisville, and they just don't really have anywhere for them to live. So they're looking into housing developments and having developers coming in saying we're going to build up something stories. Weirdly enough, the same fight we're having in Durham County or in the city of Durham about developers wanting to rezone and have buildings so and so high with so many rooms. Morrisville is having that same problem because of their sheer population density, and that's also causing problems with transportation for them. And they're also, like many places in the state, have come under the property tax reevaluation.
Yeah.
So they're being hit by the same things that hit Durham, the tax reevaluation affecting homeowners, specifically the lower end homeowners. Then you have the lack of housing and developers coming in and trying to buy up the entire county and redevelop the entire county in ways that are contrary to community interest. And on top of that, you have just the sheer density of their population and the fact they don't have any more room. And so that was kind of what I was made aware of during my conversations with Harrison Kessling. And again, full disclosure, he is a candidate running for the at-large seat in Morrisville, and that is how I became aware of kind of what was happening in Morrisville, because that was the first thing I thought to ask the candidate is like, hey, so you're a candidate in Morrisville. Well, what kind of issues is Morrisville facing? Because I'm very aware of what goes on here in Durham. What
And
goes on for our
speaking
city.
of Durham, Thomas, go ahead and let's pull those up.
Okay. I will show you. So the okay, and so here are the registered voters in Durham. If you for people to look and see what that looks like, and so to here, and as far as and so in Durham you have the here is Ward 1. And there's
So in Ward
two.
2, which is the race between Deidreana, incumbent political bias, Deidreana Freeman, and Matt Kopat.
I believe that is the race in Ward 1.
Is that
If
Ward
I'm not
1?
mistaken. Yes, it is Ward 1.
Oh, okay.
And so yes, I can pull up the contest for you, but it will take a moment.
No,
I'll have
that's
to come out
okay.
of.
No. If that's Ward 1, and then Ward 2 is Middleton.
Yes. Our mayor, Durham's Mayor Pro Tem, Mark Anthony Middleton, is being challenged by Shanetta Burris.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Ward 3, just to complete the council races, the incumbent Chelsea Cook is actually, this is her first election, and she was appointed to our seat, and she is facing off against Diana Minoff. And Durham also has election for the mayor, which our mayor Leo Williams is facing Anjani Bell. And so those are the races in Durham where we are based. And so I mentioned some of the results on last week's show, and so while I don't have any results for you, I can
update.
start showing some of the early vote
Early vote.
information, which I do have. And so here it is for.
Now, one thing to
Them.
remember
And so,
is that while
so
Durham has wards, it is an at-large. All voters can vote in each ward. It's not a true ward system like it is in a number of jurisdictions. Just a reminder to people. So what we will do when we break down next week is we're going to look at voter turnout per ward, and look at the results and kind of see if there's an outside influence on particular wards that might be at play that's diluting the impact of the people who live in particular wards. So, oh,
I can show
that's
you.
Charlotte. If you'll show me Durham.
Yeah, and so I'll show you, some of the others, like our, early vote totals. And this is by date for each date. And so, as you can see, they have greatly increased this week, with I think the bulk of the increase actually coming just in the past few days, as the election is getting closer and the weather is cleared up. As we've had a few days of rain, but I think yesterday and today, are the weather has turned, and so are actually quite sunny here, and will remain so, you know, throughout the weekend. I'm not sure about election day itself, but the early vote at least. And so, and you can see if you're interested for each of the voting sites
Yes, could you do
in Durham.
could you show me what voting site is that's having the highest turnout?
That would be the South Regional Library, and so by
And where is Central?
Central is actually at the bottom, and so I think, yeah, most people are not going to Central. I think typically it's been a little bit less because there has been a voting site downtown that people often went to. This year, none of the voting sites are downtown, but it seems that people are still not, going down the street to Central, but instead, maybe going to some of the other sites, or not voting early at all. But yes, if you see, of course, this is for each day, and I'll show. Well, would have shown if I had the sheets. I don't see them, but I would have shown, the cumulative totals. I might be able to pull those up if you, want to see them for each site. And so,
Yeah, what I do want
when
to
I
see
come
for
out,
each site, if you go to the each site and pull up the little dash so I can see how many mail-in votes are coming.
okay, mail-in votes are, they're very few, and so they're each day just a few mail-in votes come in. So you can see them here at the, very bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And so yes, those are the yeah,
That's
mail-in
picked
voters,
up
and
as
so
well.
yes, I think like the first week or two, only a few mail-in votes come in, but you've seen a few more, uh, yes, coming in this week, and so I think probably probably there was a big spike on this Monday because of course that's the Monday, but
Hmm.
yes, there have been a few more of the mail-in votes coming in also, and so is there anything? So do you want to look at any of the other cities?
Yeah, let's look at Charlotte and Fayetteville and Fayetteville. I definitely want to see Fayetteville.
Okay. All right, here is Fayetteville. And so let's see. There's actually a bit of a spike early, but I mean that's kind of come down, but it's gone back up as the other early vote sites have uh opened. And so I will mention that unlike Durham, which had every early vote site open every day, uh Fayetteville, which I believe is like most places, does not have sites open on weekend days, although it will be open for the final Saturday. And
Hmm.
also the early vote sites outside of the Board of Elections opened later. And so you can see people in Fayetteville use these sites also.
Now, this over here to the left, is that mail-in voting over here? What's the blue line?
Uh, this blue line is the daily total from all of the sites. And so
Okay.
this total is, from all of the sites. And on the right is, broken down by sites. The one on the bottom is the mail-in vote, and that is actually the same for both of them because the mail-in votes are not, associated with any voting site.
Let me look at Wilmington.
Where you have Wilmington.
Wow, that really jumped a lot in the last week. Is this?
Yes, it has. And so I think the truth is, there are actually quite a few mail-in ballots that it came early into Wilmington. Even from early October before the early vote period even started. So I think here you can see where the early vote period started, and I believe they did not have any early votes the first weekend. So and I think they opened up two other sites in New Hanover County for um, people to vote in, and you can see that the early vote totals increased significantly once people started using those sites.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And is it Winston-Salem or Greensboro that's having?
Greensboro has one. Winston-Salem does not.
Let's look at Greensboro to see how that is going.
Okay. All right, here's
Wow.
Greensboro.
So
You
they
see the
didn't
daily
have.
total.
Why that big dip? Is that a weekend? What's going on?
Yes, I think that is a weekend dip. That is, yes, the 26th. Yes, which is the Saturday. And so, yes, it's picked back up during the work week. And as you can see, the total is going higher as, election day approaches.
And do they have one at A&T?
I don't know if any of these are A&T or not. They give like the names of a few like recreation centers on a club. And so I don't know if any of those are associated with A&T or not. And so
Mm-hmm. William, do you not recognize any of those as being near A&T or UNC Greensboro?
Let me see.
Well, folks, we're
Let
going
me,
to
let
have.
me,
Go ahead, William.
hold on one second. Let me just.
Well, folks, we're going to have a full recap of all the elections and turnout numbers. Y'all got to vote on Tuesday. You got to the rest of the day, and it's a beautiful day to get out and vote. And you need to vote tomorrow until 3. And if you miss those days, I expect to see you at the polls on Tuesday, because the voting turnout rate that I'm seeing right now is not going to cut it. It is not going to cut it. It's going to be a minority, a significant minority of people making decisions for us all. And we can't afford to be complicit and complacent in this voting cycle. Make your voice heard and your vote count. I'm going to give a 12-minute update on what's going on with people who is going to be impacted by shutdown figures, by the shutdown, especially tomorrow. Who's going to be impacted. So, and I'm actually not going to have the ability to share the screen.
Oh, I can come out if you're if we're done.
No,
Okay.
it's because of what I'm doing. It's okay. So I'm just going to give us a snapshot of what's going on and who's impacted. As my mentor, the late Willie Lovett, used to say, who benefits and who pays. And as William indicated earlier, it is usually the people who pay, and the benefits go to the billionaires. So tomorrow is a huge day, in for over 1.4 million people and 600,000 households in our state. I want to repeat that tomorrow, 1.4 million North Carolinians in 600,000 households will be impacted by the not having access to Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, or old school food stamps, effective midnight tonight. There'll be over 580,000 children who rely on SNAP and the WIC program for food, formula, and nutrition. They won't have access, I want you to understand, to food, formula, and nutrition. Over 280,000 seniors, 65 and older. And 1 in 5 families, households in North Carolina include a senior. 280,000 seniors will be without SNAP benefits and Meals on Wheels for those who are housebound. Over 300,000 disabled adults will be without SNAP benefits beginning at midnight tonight. And they don't keep the number because it's shameful. But veteran and military families also are among SNAP recipients, but they don't disclose it because it is our national shame. Another fact I want to give you about who will be harmed the most is that you need to understand that 4 in 5 households in North Carolina, 4 in 5 SNAP households include a child, a senior, or a disabled adult. Now, this is what's going to happen at midnight tonight. And you're going to hear people talking about, but they need to go ahead and save these families by going ahead and passing the continuing resolution. But there are risks to doing that. According to this, starting on November 1st, if they were based on the big, beautiful bill that passed, starting at midnight tonight, able-bodied adults without dependents aged 54 to 65 must go to work and meet stricter working rules, and SNAP benefits would no longer be available without you have to have these working rules, and that includes veterans and young adults aging out of foster care. So you're going to age out of foster care. There's no transition for you to get on your feet without you, and you're not going to have any food available. You're going to be kicked out of your foster care home into the streets without food. Our food banks are already overwhelmed because of the influx of federal employees who have been without money and food for a month. And so the food banks are bracing, okay? And this is already the time of year that our food banks are at their peak. And now we're adding 20% on top of that. There's no backup funding to cover this food. And while every county in North Carolina will be affected by the SNAP and WIC suspension, it's rural counties, especially in the South and Northeast, that will suffer the most, with up to one third of the residents in their county losing food assistance. So the county with the highest SNAP enrollment are Mecklenburg County, and it affects about 11% of the population. Wake County, 10% of their total population. Durham County at 45,000 people, 15% of the county population. Guilford County, 14% of the population, and Forsyth County at 13% of the county. Now, these urban counties have the largest number of recipients, but lower percentages affected compared to rural counties. Robeson County, one third of the entire county is dependent on SNAP benefits, and that's the highest level in the state, followed by Halifax, Edgecombe, and Edgecombe County has the highest poverty rate in the entire state. Scotland, Vance, all of these have more than 25% of their residents, from 26 to 33% of their residents are dependent on SNAP. Anson County, Washington County, Lenoir, Northampton, and Bertie County all have 1 in 4 residents losing access to food in this beginning at midnight tonight. Statewide, 580,000 children, including 43,000 infants, will be without food. 280,000 seniors, 300,000 disabled adults, pregnant women, and postpartum women will lose. 262,000 pregnant and postpartum women will lose access to the WIC program. I don't even know what to say to you about these numbers. I don't even know what to say to you. And these numbers do not include cuts to Medicaid, the 39% increase in the 39% increase that is anticipated for ACA, and that's if we get the supplements. If we don't, you're looking at your ACA payments in the going up doubling in the marketplace. Children are going to go hungry, but if the big beautiful bill goes into place, it's going to be worse than that. Think about it. It's going to be worse than standing still and demanding change. You're going to have states having to supplement up to $480 million a year to keep the programs where they are now. You're going to have cuts in the SNAP benefits. They're built into the bill. I did a show on what that $1.8 trillion cuts to the $1.8 trillion cuts to Medicaid and Medicare, what that would do when we discuss the big beautiful bill. And that's the alternative. They have to negotiate something different in order to stop stop the bleeding and the culling of our people. We are in vital times, and we need to stand and fight, because we're fighting for the lives of women, children, and the disabled. We have to understand that 80% of SNAP recipients already work. They're trying to turn us into make the poor indentured servants to the state. And then they're going to farm them out to their billionaire friends at just for benefits. And they're not even going to get paid a decent wage. Walmart, the biggest employer in the country, half its workforce receive federal benefits, SNAP and Medicaid. We can't continue to allow this. Doing justice brings joy, but it's hard work. I need y'all to get on the battlefield so that there will be treats for us next year. So have a happy Halloween, and think about our neighbors and our friends. At least 15% of our neighbors are food insecure and are going to be further insecure at midnight. We have our neighbors, our federal worker neighbors, who for the first time perhaps in their lives are reliant on food banks. Let's give a generous treat to all of the food banks of North Carolina, MANA, the Food Bank of Central and Piedmont Carolinas, food banks in the western part of the state, especially food banks in the eastern part of the state. Let's be overly generous in providing supplies and money so that they can buy fresh produce this year. Happy Halloween, folks, and remember, doing justice brings joy.
here